Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PureJoy podcast, a bi-weekly exploration into what brings people joy. I'm your host, M, and this episode is only slightly different than most of our episodes, and that is because we are doing the actual recording live and in person with my friend, Ray. So hello, Ray, and welcome on into the podcast.
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
So yes, Ray, why don't you introduce yourself to us here? Tell us who we're talking to today.
Sure. Ray, 30 years old, going to be 31 in June. Born and raised in Chicago, mostly around, pretty much around the north side. I saw plenty of things in that short span of time, right? Let's see. Had a more or less typical childhood. Went to school, graduated high school, tried college, wasn't for me. So, and between that, worked in restaurants, mostly busing, food running, did dishwashing for 4 years. Then afterward, at some point, I got into delivering and did that for a long time. And then I think right around May of last year, that's when I started working at the deli. And I think that's where we met eventually, right? And then now I'm free from that place and currently delivering for Jimmy John's and cool place called Insomnia Cookies over on Lincoln and Orchard, if anyone's interested.
Yeah. Chicago native, very familiar with the city. Take your bike everywhere, which is very topical for us here on the episode today. But before we get into that, we like to start each of these off with a little question, and that is just somewhere you found joy just today.
Riding my bike.
Riding your bike.
Yeah.
Riding your bike. So you rode up to meet me at the coffee shop right across the street, but have you been doing other stuff around the city before that today?
Well, actually, you know what? I wasn't. I mean, I mostly just stayed in and slept in because the night before I had a long, more or less long shift, and then I only got 2 hours of sleep prior to that. So
yeah.
I needed that extra, resting period. So I mean, I took it easy this morning, and then got ready. I started getting ready right around 1 p.m. I guess, and then now we're here pretty much. Now I'm here.
Yeah. So a nice relaxed morning. I think I had a pretty relaxed morning. I'm a little bit behind on some of my editing, so I had to do some editing while we were waking up with coffee this morning. But that's not like a busy morning for me. I think my little joy of the day is getting this all set up to use the bookshelves in the background. It all worked out really well because it's the first time I've had to move everything out of the office. So I was pretty actually ecstatic that it went together exactly as I was thinking it would, hoping that it would. Because again, we've never done one in person, so there's just, I felt like there might be technical problems or something that I've never had to come across or whatever, but I think everything went just as smoothly as they do, so
far so good.
That felt really good. Yeah. Well, so then, small joys of the day out of the way, what in life brings you pure joy?
Pure joy. I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna say sleeping because I mean I really do value that more than ever now, especially with my kind of schedule. Yeah. I mean, as you get older, I mean, I've come to realize, oh, hey, it turns out I need sleep in order to a certain amount of hours of sleep in order to function adequately, at least adequately, right?
Yeah.
So you can get away with a lot of shit in your 20s.
Yeah, it feels more and more like you need more and more a regular sleep schedule.
That is very, very important, kids. Make sure to get enough sleep. Seriously, develop a schedule. All right.
A schedule is so important.
If nothing else, if you're only gonna squeeze in 4 or 6 hours of sleep, at least do it at a consistent time.
The same 4 or 6.
Yes. Get your body used to that because you need sleep, guys. I'm just saying.
No, right. Sleep. I mean, sleep is important.
All right. Yes. All right. When I'm not sleeping, I mean, I can't just sleep.
Yeah, when you're not sleeping.
When I'm not sleeping, boy. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking a lot about you riding your bike, right?
That's true.
That seems to be a lot. It seems like you built a lot of your current life around the use of riding your bike, whether it's work or not. I imagine that's also just the way you get around the city too.
That's true, and it kind of happened. I don't know. I suppose that's more or less happened by accident. It was here's the thing. Here's what really got me into it. I think I was around, let's say 25, right? Right around, let's say 2017, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that. I was a dishwasher in the West Loop. That's a nice little area. pretty busy. I mean, actually, you know what? I was working at this place called, at the time it was called Grange Hall Burger Bar. Towards the end of my time there, they changed the name. The owner changed the name to the Front Room, and I was washing dishes in this, it was this cute little cozy restaurant that almost never was almost never busy, at least until the weekend, more or less. Sundays were probably the most busiest days, and even
Hmm.
then, compared to the restaurants next door, it was like it was a piece of cake, pretty much. I mean,
Sure.
yeah, right. So one winter, I don't know, I don't even remember how I heard about Uber Eats or DoorDash. I do remember seeing a lot of guys doing around the city, around the town, just riding their bikes with those big delivery bags, those big Uber Eats bags or
Yeah, the big
whatever.
square ones on the back of the
Yep,
bike. Yeah.
I was like, oh, hey, bike delivery. That looks like it could be fun. And then eventually, I guess I came across the app in an ad. I don't know what I was using. It was on YouTube or something, right? But I mean, I click on it. I Uber Eats, become a driver or whatever. It was for Uber Eats, but then I start surfing around. I eventually, find a link for, to become a driver or whatever. And it turns out you didn't need a card. You could also use a bike. And it's like, oh shit, why don't I try this for some extra cash, right? And it's like, I haven't ridden a bike in like, trying to think, I don't quite remember. It's like the last time before doing this, before delivering, I want to say the last time I rode a bike was almost the time I learned how to ride a bike, which was 8 years old or whatever.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. So did you even own a bike when you were like thinking
hell
about doing
no,
this?
hell
No.
no. I was like, no,
Hell
no,
no.
nope. I was used to taking the CTA, the red line, right over to work, and it was just like that. Like every single day, just take public transportation, just head to work, come back to work, and then, I remember nights when when I would leave, or when I finish a pretty late shift, that the bus wasn't running anymore, so I had to walk all the way to the subway and
Yep.
whatever, which was pretty annoying. And then it just meant that I got less sleep because of the long commute and long waiting times or whatever. So at that point, I think that's actually what motivated me to get a bike. Yeah, that, and along with seeing that, hey, I could just make some extra cash too. So, that bike will just pay itself. And
Yeah.
then once I started doing that, it turns out I love doing this. Why the hell am I washing dishes in the basement? That was on the, actually, it's a really nice job. Like it gets busy, but
Sure, but you're in the basement, you're surrounded by the hot, like wet air because of the dishwashing. It's
true.
there's no windows, no fresh air. It's consistent smashing into the same job. No shade against it, but now that you've had this open to you where you're out
Yes.
in the fresh air,
Eh,
traveling,
Oh my God! Wow. Why am I dishwasher
why
again?
am I
What
dishwashing?
the hell am I doing? It's like, and then I don't know. I think it was like months after that. Not too long. I think it was right around May where I'd leave the restaurant right around right a little bit before summertime began, and then that's when I, you know, got out of there. I was already delivering on and off after work. Sometimes I worked till like midnight, 1 a.m. because I was just enjoying my time outside. It's like I would have the app running, right, and then there are times where there's a lull there, but there's no deliveries coming in. But at the time, I didn't really care because I was just enjoying my time,
Riding your
enjoying
bike
like,
around the
hell
city.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
running into some interesting people. I've met a bunch of interesting people. I ran into characters. You're bound to run into each other when it's in the restaurant. You're all waiting for an order, or you're just taking a break, hanging out under a bridge, under I don't know, right around the corner, in the park too. You sit on a bench, just relax, take some time off, and you'll run into people. You run into fellow drivers, and you meet. You become friends. You can even become friends with them. It's like you run into them long enough, you develop a rapport or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of like web of info spread amongst the drivers and
Oh,
stuff?
hell
Is it like
yeah.
a community of like
There is.
avoid, I don't know, this area, this customer, this restaurant?
You know what? There's this big group on Facebook for drivers, bike delivery. Like, we all just chat amongst one another. We talk about our experiences. We talk about, certain areas that are busier at certain times. It's like it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun too, because at some point, or I remember running into at least three people who I've only known in the chat, but eventually we've run into each other in person.
Okay.
Right, and we recognize each other from our profile picture, or they would recognize me from my profile pictures, and like, they say, "Oh shit, it's you! Hey, what's up, man?" I was like, "Oh fuck, what the hell are you doing?" It's like, I mean, the people I've run into, it's because they usually work mostly in the south side or whatever. That they do DoorDash.
You weren't really expecting to run into them.
Yeah,
on the
so
north side,
that was an interesting surprise. It was like I was doing Uber Eats mostly at the time. These guys that I've run into, they were doing DoorDash, and they'd usually work in the south side because for whatever the hell reason, that's where I mean, I guess most DoorDash orders seem to occur. Like, cause I don't know, more or less, it's because I did DoorDash too. So, like, I mean, at least on a bike, I wouldn't get as many as I would with Uber Eats. So I found myself switching back and forth.
depending on like where you are in the city at any given moment.
That is true. I mean, when I'm in the loop, I've delivered in, many times. I'll have both apps running, right? I'll do this thing called multi-apping, where you have several delivery apps running on at the same time, and then you're handling several orders at the same time, which is a big no-no because that can get you kicked out. And what happens?
Sure.
Right. What happens is if you can take on several orders, but then it's going to take you a while because to finish those orders. Because if you accept one order from Uber Eats and then you accept another from DoorDash, and then the DoorDash order has you waiting in line for like a really long time, and it's like, hey, you got a Uber Eats order, you got to deliver that right away.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you're ever wondering why delivery drivers take forever to deliver your stuff, that's one particular reason. It's the multi-apping. It's the only way we're able to increase our earnings in a short span amount of time. If you're sticking with one app, I mean, you'll have good days, you'll have bad days, you'll have better days if you know what you're doing and using multiple apps.
Spreading it out properly.
Right.
It sounds like that there is a good way. I mean, it sounds like there is a good way to do this and a bad way to do this.
Yes.
With like streaming, there's this multi-streaming thing where like at a certain point with certain streaming things, if you want them to pay you money, you can't double stream. Like I can't stream on Twitch and be live on Twitch and stream on YouTube at the same time.
You can't?
No. At the like beginning stages, can't. I mean, there's like ownership things that go into that, but they don't. You're not like not allowed to, and like there's certain ways you can get away with it, and certain ways you can do it. But it's interesting. I think it like kind of falls into the same. They always say, I think it's just their way of like holding on to you as a creator and like not allowing you to make more money or whatever. But
Sure.
They also, I think it like in the end, like you can only properly take care of this one thing at any one given time. Like I can't be, in my case, chatting with this chat and this chat at the same time. I can say the same thing, but then I have to respond, say to this chat, and this chat doesn't know like what these guys are saying.
Oh yeah.
And you kind of like,
that makes sense.
I feel as a creator you would be breaking that flow. Not to say that I wouldn't do it, but that you would be breaking that flow of chat in between, and like not everyone is involved at any one given moment. But in your case, it could lead to, like you said, like long wait times because you're waiting for one order while you have this other order maybe in your car or that you're supposed to be picking up or on your bike or whatnot. So I can see that. So I feel like there's got to be a way to like properly time that flow where you can make it work. And
I mean, I've managed to do it, but it is actually difficult to accomplish. I mean, thank God I was riding on my e-bike because basically going full speed, like, yeah, no. I mean, I get why I do understand why the rules exist, but
you got to make a living too.
There's money to be made.
Yeah, you got to make a living 100%. I like, yeah, definitely not to take away from that. 100%. You got to do what you can do to get it done. I didn't ever think about that. I have been sometimes curious because like sometimes I'll have like I live here, There is
Beautiful home.
half a mile, thank you, half a mile this way and that way to a McDonald's, but at midnight I'm not trying to walk half a mile, so sometimes I'll spend a little extra, get a little delivery. Then you can always see them like pick it up, and then they're going the different direction. I'm like, dog, it's half a mile this way. Come half a mile this way first. But I get it. I'll get it when I get it. I could have gone up there half a mile if I wanted it right now. So, is what it is. Biking in the city, is that like, I mean, my worry about biking in the city is that danger. I can barely keep up with being safe on the sidewalk sometimes, that like
Yeah,
there's so much more to look out for.
this is true. I remember. I can tell you, like, not even. Well, I guess 5 years ago. It's 2018. I remember in those. I wouldn't pay too much. I never really paid too much attention to the news. I still kind of don't, but you start to see enough clips or video clips, or of people destroying shit around the city, and then you see it in person actually, which I did see it in person. So during the lockdowns,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was actually one of the, for whatever the hell reason, I was one of the few people out there, working, because I mean, I don't know what else to do. It was like, sure, I could sit around at home and see if I can
I
collect
mean,
on
some
it.
people had to be out working.
Yeah,
And it just like it was happening. So like some people
sure.
were filling those roles.
Yeah, true. And I was there enjoying my time. Oh yeah, dude, that was probably one of my one of the more one of the funner times, because all I would literally be riding in the middle of the street.
No traffic.
Yeah, no traffic, barely any traffic. I could pop as many wheelies as I wanted to. I mean, I can't pop a wheelie, but the fact that I could
You could
was
do it without worrying about being watched.
right. Exactly. I could bust my shit as many times as possible. It'd be awesome, right? So I mean, I remember during those days, during the summer in particular, you see all this, you'd see protests here and there, people just, walking in mass, and then you see a lot of writing on the chalk, with chalk on the sidewalk. You'd see broken windows, or at least a lot of glass. It was
Mm-hmm.
like be the day after, and I did see a whole bunch of glass on right on, let's say, Southport. I love that little street.
I love Southport. Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of little shops there. Occasionally, I go to the place called the Music Box Theater.
Yeah, I've passed by it several times. I've never been
Yeah,
in, but
it's a cute little joint. I mean, I remember still going to see the Joker there. Way, but what was it? 2019, I think that came out.
yeah.
It's a really cute little place. And then what I would do is I'd grab a. It'd be the end. It was the end of my shift, and then I would have my big delivery box, orange delivery box right there, and then I'd use it as a little table, and I'd sit in the front row in the theater watching the movie, just eating the snacks I picked up from Trader Joe's,
That's
and
awesome.
then afterwards I would literally just have that box there, and I would use it as a recliner, just
Little
en-
footrest.
literally
Hell
just enjoy
yeah.
the show. It was awesome, right? But yeah, no,
Yeah.
right along Southport. That's where I see, a whole bunch of glass, broken windows,
Yeah.
broken windows from shops and cars. It was
During
quite
so like right as things were shutting down, me and my partner were working in a Michelin restaurant, very fine dining, right? It was like, right as things are coming out, shutdowns may be coming, this may be happening, this may be happening. You have to stop service, but certain like food serving can still happen. You just can't do like restaurant service or whatever. So like as each thing happened, our restaurant kept changing and eventually moved into a delivery based system for like a very small menu, that things that could travel well at this quality, but still, give you a cool experience. It was like expensive delivery, high class delivery or whatever.
nice. Okay.
And I was already going to work to serve it, so my partner had a Jeep, so she like helped cook the food, and then I would deliver the deliveries. The last night we did it was the night of the huge protest where they pulled the bridges in the middle of the city, and
Remember
trapped
that.
all the
I
protesters.
remember that.
I left with a delivery, and I didn't want to go on this delivery because it was the last delivery of the night, and I mean, I was the only delivery driver, so I had, like, if there was a delivery, I had to go.
Right.
But I didn't want them to take it because it was the last one of the night, and we were already beginning to close up when they called, and I took the call, and I was like, guys, hey, sorry, we're starting to close up. Like, it's you know what's going on in the city, and they were like, yeah, we know there's protests and stuff, but also we just got married today, and the caterer backed out because of everything, and we're just like looking for anything we can get delivered. So my bleeding heart dumb ass was like, of course we can deliver your stupid fucking food to you. I would love to take your order and deliver your food. So we did. We made their food, and I took it out in the Jeep. And I took it out in the Jeep right as the protest started. And they were in a hotel like right off of the Magnificent Mile. And so as I'm driving, as I left, all the streets were open. I get about halfway there, and streets start to literally, I can see like cops pull up and park sideways on a street, and cops pull up and park sideways on this street. And I'm going down the Magnificent Mile, and there is not a soul on the street. I'm like, this is the wildest experience I've ever had. The busiest place in the city of Chicago, and I am alone here. And I'm like, why am I alone here? And then I see the crowd like 4 blocks down coming my way.
Oh shit.
Oh shit. So I have to like, quickly turn around, and now I'm trying to find a way to escape the Magnificent Mile, except now all the cops are in place.
Oh boy.
And so it takes me like 2 hours to get off of this street and maneuver my way back through the like back streets to get to this delivery. Of course, I'm apologizing. Hey, I'm so sorry. You guys know what's going on. Here's your cold food. But I'm delivering it because everyone is aware of the situation. Just the wildest time. Like, the one time I'm delivering in Chicago, I did it for like 2 weeks, and it was like the wildest thing, actually running like into the protest. Not, of course, physically, but seeing them coming my way in the only car on the street. Like, my car is unsafe. Even if I'm not to blame for anything going on right now, my car will be totaled if I leave it here.
Right.
100%. Just a wild time. But I mean, even outside of the protests, I imagine that like being constantly on the street is a challenge, right?
Sure. Traffic is crazy. I've been hit by car doors at least 3 times, one of which I got knocked out of my bike. I've never been put to sleep, so to speak, right? I'll tell you. I was running down. It was like a bit past Damon and Wilson, so I'm headed southbound. I think I'm headed back home. It was for a break or whatever. I was delivering at the apps at the time, and so right before I approached the intersection, right as I'm passing this car, it's like I'm going at full speed. Yes, I'm going at full speed. Literally, at the moment I'm passing this car, guy decides to open his door. It's me. I fly off my bike. I tumble across the street. Thank God there wasn't so much traffic. Holy shit! It was like, it must have been noon. I don't know, between noon and 2ish, something like that. But yeah. I mean, I hit the ground pretty hard.
On the electric bike going full speed?
Yes. This was I was still using my Sondors X at the time. That was my first e-bike. Great choice on my part too, right? And I would use that thing constantly. I mean, obviously every day because I would deliver, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. So I was headed back home on a break, and I was just riding full speed. Boom. I probably could have been knocked out if I landed wrong, and thank God of all the days. Because at first I wouldn't wear a helmet. I'll be honest with you. The whole helmet thing. It's like sometimes I'd wear it, sometimes I'd be in a rush to do deliveries, and I just didn't care and all that. And then you know what? At the time I would wear these headphones, and it was pretty hard to do that when you're wearing a helmet.
So you couldn't wear a helmet,
right? And even if I would try to wear them in such a way where I could have them, but then they would eventually slip off because they're not so secure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, eventually, I mean, I came across this headband, this really simple headband. I mean, I found it on eBay, and I'll just wrap that. And I think it's like less than $20, right? And I bought one of those. I tried it, wrapped it around my head. It's like, oh shit, hey, maybe I should just use this from now on.
To play your music,
podcasts, Mostly podcasts these days, interestingly enough. I don't know. I mean, but oh yeah, it's probably right around the time. Oh, I started delivering is right around the time I got into podcast, listening to podcasts as well. Because music's great and all, but then I did, what was it? I guess I did have that app, Apple Podcasts, whatever. I never listened to it. I mean, I remember listening to talk radio, not intentionally, but I
Here and there.
yeah, sure, I'd come across it. And it was always interesting. Oh, hey, look, there's these talk radio seeming like things I don't think I've even heard of the word podcast. Right? I was curious about that, and then I don't even remember the first one I listened to, but from there I just discovered this whole world of just people talking about different subjects or just getting drunk and having recording that shit.
Yeah, like like there's a million out there. It's as skewed as like going to see a TV show. Like just pick a TV show randomly. Like
Absolutely.
there's a million TV shows you could end up with literally anything. But yeah, I mean, I think delivery driving is where I picked up like I would pick up like the type of podcasts that I started with were like shows. They were like audio dramas almost. Yeah, I feel like that skewed a lot of like how I've listened to podcasts. I need specific either it needs to be either like goofy funny conversation or like well produced audio drama kind of style situation is kind of what I like to listen to. But all that definitely came when I like you can only listen to the your favorite playlist a million times before you're like ready to listen to something new.
I mean, I know people who do just listen to their favorite playlists over and over and over again. That's fine. I mean, that's working for them. That's great.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah. I guess for me, however, it's like you're right. I mean, there's only so many times you can listen to that, and then it's like what happens is I come across something else. I get curious. I come across one particular podcast, then I see there's like a whole list of episodes, and then I proceed to binge listen, I guess, right?
Yeah.
To like almost every single one. It's like going as far back as 2016 and just working my way all the way up to now. It's awesome.
Yeah,
sure.
The first podcast I started listening to, I was listening to them like every week, and then eventually I just got tired of waiting, and so I went to listen to their whole backlog. I mean, now they're on episode almost 700, so it took like a long time, but it's just like, goofy conversation, asking questions and answering them, and that's about it. So like easy listening and just sit back. But the going through the backlog, like then I was driving, so it was like consistently just on. And even at that point, like if you miss a little bit, it's okay because there's 600 other episodes
that's true.
to get the joke in or whatever.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I guess also what happens is when I am listening or sort of listening to a podcast while delivering, riding a bike, it's like, I mean, it's like you're not going to retain all the information because you're not necessarily paying too much attention, or at least not as much as you're paying attention to the road, especially when there's a lot of traffic and a lot of drunks, in the street. And it's like, you got to be careful. But, for me, it's good to have that background noise, especially when, like, all the screeching that occurs from time to time. Interestingly enough, though, I do love seeing the city up at night. I mean, I was talking about this earlier. It's like, I mean, I've always wanted to visit a place. Let's take Tokyo for example. Tokyo, Japan. I mean, from what I've seen in documentaries or whatever, when they show the city at night, it's lit up.
It's a lot.
It's absolutely lit up, and I noticed the streets are also sort of more, I want to say, narrow-ish or whatever. Or at least the streets they show are much more narrow, and people are more, close knit. And it's like humongous populations. It turns out, what is it, like 34 million, 30 something?
No, it's significantly more. Yeah.
A city in an island. Just imagine 30-40 million people there. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. I mean, Chicago, what are we up? I don't remember. I mean, how many people are we up to now?
I couldn't even begin to take a guess.
I know. What was it like? It's like it's definitely not New York or LA.
Yeah.
Thank God.
A 15th of Tokyo.
Oh God, yes. We're basically a 15th of Tokyo. Yeah. It's like I mean,
That is actually pretty wild to think about, because like, I mean, I can only imagine that especially at night, biking through the city on like a Friday or Saturday night has to be somewhat challenging, as there's a lot more people out and about than say like 2 p.m. Because they're just enjoying themselves. Maybe they stumble in your path, and that's a frustration, or you have to wait longer for them to pass over a crosswalk or whatever that is.
sure.
But I can only imagine that 15 times the amount of people would. It would be a walking delivery at that point.
Yeah, you
Like,
may as well just be walking really fast.
yeah, it's a walking fast delivery.
Hell
Like,
yeah.
that's hard.
And I'll tell you some of my favorite times. I mean, I don't know what. At some point, I started riding around the lakefront trail at the end of my shift, like after my shift went in or whatever.
It's like a cool down?
After I clocked out, yes. And then I would do this, mind you, at night. I would do this right around at night. I mean, I would ride along Randolph or whatever, and then I would eventually make whatever necessary turns to get on the lake, get on the trail,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would just ride all the way back up to Edgewater, all the way back up to the north. It's just beautiful to look at. It's actually really quiet around that time. Or at least it was. I don't really do that much anymore because of I guess I mean I don't think partly because of the increase in crime, I guess. I mean, I could still probably do it.
It's not as quiet as it was.
Sure, and I guess it's also kind of out of my way. Yeah. I mean,
Have you moved since then?
No, I still live in the same area, but I work in Lincoln Park. I mean,
Oh, you moved work locations.
yeah, I do move work locations because when I was working in the West Loop, it was like not too. It was right along Randolph Street. I mean, if you've been along there, you'll see all the big restaurants there, right by Fulton Market.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was pretty easy to get to there, Lakefront Trail. And then when I got my Zumo bike, I would occasionally take it to the shop. They had one shop in Chicago. Let's see. After I got it fixed, I would deliberately take the long way home. This would be on an off day, so occasionally I would need to take my bike for repairs. And at this time, I think I was renting with Zumo, and I would take it there for repairs. And then one day, I remember I remember the day they were gonna start closing down. I ended up buying it, not at full price. It was like 80% off or whatever.
Yes.
Yes, just imagine buying an e-bike, thousands of dollars, get that 80% off because they're trying to get rid of, liquidate everything, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, it was a steal. That was probably one of the best days of that year, right?
Yeah.
It was
A
like,
good money saver.
oh, thank God, look at that.
No longer renting. Got it 80% off.
Hell yeah. And so I mean, after that, once again, take the beautiful lakefront trail. This was the daytime too, so it's actually really nice to see. I do recommend riding around the lakefront trail. I mean, at least in the daytime. If you're not comfortable riding in the nighttime, that's fine. The daytime, it is a beautiful place to ride in, and then I think it does look significantly. There are a few significant changes to the whole trail, to the road, because they're building new stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
But new bridges or new structures, new paths for the bike. It's really cool what the city has done for as far as cyclists go. I mean, it has become more bike friendly,
That's good.
Yeah, that's great for me. I love it.
Hey folks, some quick show notes here. If you are enjoying listening to the PureJoy podcast, please make sure that you subscribe or follow it on whatever podcatcher you are listening to it on. There will be a link in the description if you would like to support the podcast monetarily. It would be greatly appreciated. It is never needed, but always appreciated. So if you're interested, the link is down there. Every penny goes to support the podcast and keep bringing the quality up as the time goes on. Beyond that, sharing the PureJoy podcast on Twitter, telling your friends about us. Anything and everything goes miles and miles to helping get the PureJoy podcast to as many ears as possible. If you do enjoy listening to the PureJoy podcast,
I do host another podcast as well with a few friends called Dungeons, Drive-Ins, and Dice, whose info will also be in the description. It is an actual play TTRPG podcast. We are currently playing Dungeon World in a homebrewed space campaign of my own design. They are somewhat approaching the end of our first campaign, but we are already preparing for campaign number 2 to take off pretty soon after. So the content is coming. There's a bit there to listen to, and it's just going to continue to flow. So check that out in the description below. Again, that's Dungeons, Drive-Ins, and Dice. You can find us anywhere that you find the PureJoy podcast as well. And yeah, appreciate you folks listening in, and we'll get back to the episode.
We talked a little bit about how, I guess maybe I just don't think that people look out for bikers too much. Do you feel like the city is starting to look out more for bikers? Or no, just like the city itself is building that kind of infrastructure bikers need?
I mean, as far as infrastructure-wise, sure, we're doing a lot better than years ago. But as far as, I don't know, the relationship between drivers and cyclists has always been a bit
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I do see the occasional asshole cyclist who just buzzes right by, even right by me. It's like without a care in the world, there's so much traffic, and then, cars are trying to go, and then this asshole just rides right in front of them, like without a care in the world. There are those guys. And then, of course, there's, I don't know, there's people with a lot of road rage issues, and so. I mean, there have been times where I've gotten into screaming matches. Never escalated into a physical fight. I mean, but yeah, it could have gone either way. It's like, Jesus Christ, it does get it does become it does get annoying. But for the most part, it's like, yeah, you just get used to it.
Yeah.
That you kind of have to. It's like, I'm not saying this isn't the worst city to ride a bike in.
No.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. But it has its challenges.
It's not the easiest either.
Yeah, it's not the easiest.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not the easiest.
What is it like in areas, because like only some areas really have like bike lanes and
True.
like the street infrastructure set up? What is it like riding in the areas where those bike lanes aren't? Are you just loosely in the street? Are you still trying to stay where the bike lane would be?
I mean, ideally, yes, but then it's like sometimes those horrible streets with the potholes and no bike lanes, and you don't have much of a choice if you want to, do your delivery as fast as possible. So it's like, I mean, sometimes I do find myself riding in the sidewalk as well, because then occasionally you'll see, depending on where you are, you'll see the paletero man just riding his bike with the ice cream box. And it's like, I mean, he's not exactly the fastest guy, because obviously, you want to ride around the track. People play that music.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, I get that. It's fine, but you're taking up the fucking lane. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's
cool.
interesting. I feel like some like the sellers like that whom aren't bolting down the street on their bike, like I feel like are a little more welcome on the sidewalks than going from point A to point B really quick. Like it totally makes sense that you're trying to get to point B really quick, but also is like a little more dangerous on the sidewalk when there's folks around. But I feel like at least he has the benefit, or folks like him have the benefit of being able to ride on the sidewalk. I guess it's still is it illegal to ride on the sidewalk? Like, is it actually?
That is another thing. Growing up, I distinctly remember these paletero men just riding along the sidewalk, because they would ride pretty slow.
Yeah.
And they would, serve the treats, those cool ice creams,
No, I'm trying to do that in the street.
I mean, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
stay on the sidewalk.
Yeah, it would make more sense too, because that's where people are. That's where people are walking, and you'd just ring that bell, and people would come to you, and then like, hey, paletas, get your paletas or whatever, right? And then as a kid, I'd eat that, I'd eat those, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know what the hell happened. Did it become illegal? I mean, I do see signs that say no bike riding or whatever, which is pretty stupid. I mean, no, I mean, it's not the stupidest thing in the world, but on the other hand, it's like, I mean, I think about places like what is it, Sweden or Switzerland, with very bike friendly cities. I mean, they're countries. I know I'm talking about. I'm trying to remember. Maybe
Bike
it's
city friendlies in or friendly cities in them.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, very bike friendly. You see, see people walking on the sidewalks, people riding their bikes. They're all sharing the path, and they seem to be able to maneuver around each other. It's just a different. It's just different over there. Different. You know, way to look at it, and it's like I've always wanted to. I've always wanted. I do want to visit there too. I would like to see Chicago become more or less like that, and it
Mhm.
kind of has. You know, what with the barefoot running being more of a thing now, and just for whatever hell reason, you see people running right along the bike path, and which I've been seeing more and more often.
Hmm.
For whatever reason, there's this big there's a humongous sidewalk where people walk, and
I feel runner belongs on the sidewalk
yeah,
because you're on foot and the bikers don't get too much.
I'm gonna go ahead and agree with you there.
Yeah,
Because what happens there is I'm literally trying to deliver something. I don't really want to. I mean, I already got enough problems dealing with the cars here who want to sometimes invade my lane, right? And it's
or
like,
doors from the other side.
right. And then now I have to worry about barefoot middle-aged women running or hell, even walking.
By barefoot, do you mean no shoes?
I am literally.
Is that what you're?
Yes,
Because that's
barefoot.
dangerous as fuck in the city.
Yes.
No
yes,
way that's
yes.
so
I don't.
unsafe.
I don't understand it. I've seen it, and then I'll see people wearing shoes too. But for whatever the hell reason, what the hell?
Barefoot? I did that in Oregon when I lived in Oregon
That's
for the
so
summer.
weird.
I did barefoot
I don't
for
know.
the summer,
Mhm.
but that is a pedestrian city. Like that
Sure.
entire city is built around bikers and walkers, and
Right.
it's harder to use a car. Like
Right.
all of the difficulty is put on the cars since they're the most deadly.
Right.
And so like walkers and bikers everywhere. Most of the time they'll close off full city blocks that you can't get your car through just for the bikers and walkers. And so like then there was like 3 months where I just did not wear shoes except when I was going into like the grocery store or a restaurant.
Yeah.
Because that makes sense.
Sure.
But like then it was safe. In this city, not in a million years am I like
I'm trying to understand it.
there's broken glass everywhere. The ground is half broken glass.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a humongous increase in carjackings and breaking into people's cars at night. It's like, what are you doing? It's like I don't know. It's like sometimes I'll see them right along not the sidewalk, but whatever where the dirt is or whatever, and it's like they'll switch between that and the bike lane. And it's like, why are you barefoot? Like
Why are you barefoot?
it's like, and it's not just the same person. I mean, like I've seen
Sure.
several people do this too, and it's weird. It was already kind of weird to me seeing people run with shoes right along the bike path. It's like I can understand it if the sidewalk is pretty busy, but then for the most part, they could have just as easily ran on the sidewalk. It's like I don't know what's going on there. I mean, I don't know what their process how that works. It's like their thought processes. It's like, hey, I pay taxes.
I guess,
Sure,
but
I
you're not
can
running in the car
I
lane.
can
Like
run wherever I
you
want.
shouldn't run in the car lane or the bike lane. You should run in the sidewalks,
It's like
the walk lane.
I wonder if we're invisible to people. Sometimes cyclists in particular. It's like do you not know we exist, or do you just not want us to exist? What
I feel like a lot of people on the sidewalk feel like cyclists are an imposition because they're like they don't understand how to give common respect to another person on the road. Like most people
Right.
only consider cars or walking, and then like a cyclist is just also there,
Right.
and so they like it's another thing to stop them in their day.
Right.
I feel like one of the largest I don't know problem is the word, but like I don't know, one of the biggest negatives maybe about a lot of the pedestrians here is that they are so concerned about getting from point A to point B as fast as possible that any impedance in that process is like automatically sets them off.
Right.
And they for some reason are unwilling to consider cyclists for like of all things as just another thing on the road to worry about. So like a cyclist rolls by and they're like, "Oh, come on, this is another thing. It's always the cyclist." But it's like not. You just weren't showing respect to that lane. Like that's you look both ways before you cross the streets for cars and for bikes. You know, but they don't see cars and so they start moving and like now there's a cyclist.
You'll definitely respect the car because that thing can run you over if I kill you, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, so could a bike actually.
That's what I'm saying. You should respect the cyclist.
Yeah, it's like, oh, like, and sometimes I wonder, is it also a generational thing? I mean, I don't have any data on this.
No,
but,
sure, sure.
It's just a thought it's just a thought I had. It's like, hey, maybe people aren't. I guess older generation might not be so used to the whole cycling, getting around the city in the bike or whatever. So they're used to dealing with cars most of the time. So it's like, oh, hey, look, a car, a cyclist.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, when I was growing up, everyone learned how to ride a bike. And if you didn't really know how to ride a bike, you were more of a standout. But I feel like living here in the city, it's much more common for someone to not know how to ride a bike.
I guess.
And then therefore
Maybe.
don't know the bike safety. Like you don't know what you need to look out for if you aren't aware of.
I guess most people just jump right to driving, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe as a teen, maybe riding a bike, like you said, once or twice. But then before you started riding a bike, did you like, 2017, was bike safety like on your list while you were pedestrianing about the city?
Mm, not so much. It was only once I got the bike that I had to, learn about the laws or whatever.
Sure,
Make sure I didn't put anybody in danger. It's like it was. I remember the first week was slightly nerve-wracking. I haven't ridden a bike in years, and then, I still know how to ride one. It's just even just the idea of pretty much sharing a lane with a car. That was a bit nerve-wracking. And then within a week, I was like, "Holy shit, this is fun! Why the fuck am I still taking the CTA?" It was like, and then occasionally you'd hear about something that would happen. Whether it was a robbery, whether it was an assault, whether it was somebody literally jumping right in front of the red line train to off themselves, or whatever. It's like, why would I want to risk seeing somebody off themselves at the red line? Happened more than once, by the way.
Yes. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then it's like, shit, fuck this. I'm riding a bike from them. Like, yeah, I could save up for a car and deliver, but it's like I also it was I did start around the winter time, but right around the time I left, it was almost summer. It's like I wanted to enjoy the sun. I wanted to enjoy the fresh air because, like you mentioned, I was working in a basement, no windows. It does get pretty steamy in there, and it's like, holy shit, this is literally a breath of fresh air. It was a different change. It was a humongous change. And yeah, I mean, when I wasn't delivering, I'd be riding around too, just enjoying the sun, basking in the sun, enjoying my time. It was like, I mean, I think I also owned I owned a Mongoose. It wasn't electric, but it was really cool fat tire bike. And I would just ride around that too sometimes. Whenever the Sondors was in the shop, I was really into fat tire bikes. Still am. I just it's more convenient for me to ride more regular sized bikes because occasionally it'll break down, and then I'll have to rely on the CTA. Put it so I could fit the bike onto one of the bike racks or whatever. But yeah, I mean, great times.
So on bikes, do you have anyone like we were talking right before, our old coworker who doesn't know how to necessarily ride a bike or hasn't really like learned how to do that. Do you have any advice for like people who are scared to get on bikes in the city or just like haven't ever ridden a bike, like words of wisdom to maybe pull some people to the biking world? What it's done for you, what it's
done for me. I mean, I guess I only really got into it because I sort of needed it. I mean, I didn't want to save up or it would have taken a long time to save up for a car, right? The bike was significantly cheaper. I think I got my first for like $100 or something like that. Pretty cheap, pretty useful. And if you do want to get into bike riding, first of all, good on you. It's a lot of fun. You'll get to enjoy, depending on where you are. So if you're in Chicago and you're looking to get into riding bikes, I mean, this place has become a bit more bike friendly over the years. I have seen new lanes being, specifically allocated for cyclists and such. I mean, there's still a lot of work to do with certain streets, but with potholes and that. But let's see. I would say, I mean, if you just want to, maybe you should start as a means to get to work. Most people drive. I mean, my coworkers at the deli, they either drove or walked, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like not very few of them actually rode a bike, but you save a lot of money. First off, especially what with gas prices. I mean, I know they not too long ago they skyrocketed. I think they more or less stabilized. I don't know.
Dipped a little bit
A little
since they
bit.
started, but
Yeah, still. I mean, you won't have to worry about gas. Repairs are easy. It's like I had to learn how to repair my bike, because I would end up saving more money. It's like repairs are basic repairs. Changing a flat or cleaning it. It's very easy. Anybody can learn it.
Mhm.
I mean, I would say start off if you don't or if your work location isn't too far from where you live, I would say that'd be a great reason to start cycling. It's just you'll find it easier to maneuver, and especially when it gets pretty busy, like right around the rush hour. There's a bunch of traffic, and then you'll be able to zoom past the cars, and uh yeah, you know what? Yeah, that would be a great start, just
Yeah.
as a means to get to work.
Yeah, a
Right,
small stint here and
right,
there.
right.
One saves you a little bit of money if you're, I mean, on gas, I think it would save you a lot of money. Even on public transportation, like I mean, maybe I spend on a busy week like $20
Hmm.
in public transportation. So
Okay.
like, it's got to save $20 a week. I mean,
Now they don't normally. I don't think they normally let you take your bike into the trains, at least during the daytime. At least when it's pretty busy and there's a lot
mhm.
of people packed in. I don't think they'll let you take in your bike. It's usually right after, I don't know when it's. I know after midnight they will. They're not gonna care. There's barely anybody on
Yeah,
it, so it's
yeah.
like you're good to go. But
And buses even have the little like clamp on the front for
that's right,
bikes. So if you want
right.
to take a longer trip, or if you want to get somewhere to start your bike ride, like at least in this city, and I think in some other cities as well, there's like ways to mix public transportation and biking.
Right, right. And oh, you know what? How I got into riding trails too. I remember shopping at Trader Joe's, and the cashier notices, he notices my bike helmet. It's like, hey, have you ever taken it wasn't the Lakefront Trail. It was it's one that starts right along Belmont
The
and
808?
might be
Okay.
the Belmont and close to Western and Roscoe. Let's say it's a bit past that. There's this other trail that starts at Belmont and then takes you all the way up to Montrose. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful little trail. Um, right by, I think the Paul's there too. At least one of their locations, some university. And there's this beautiful trail where you could see the river,
Yeah.
one of our rivers, and then you could ride along that trail. And then the cashier tells me about that trail. And it's like I try it out of curiosity. One day it was actually when I was working at the deli. So I've already ridden the Lakefront Trail,
Mhm.
but then tells me about the one on Belmont. Or I deliberately take the long way home just to ride home because I guess I will say that biking can be a bit of a meditative practice. It definitely can be. I don't recommend doing it with your eyes closed.
Sure, sure. You don't want to meditate, but
No.
it can be meditative.
Sure, right, sure. I mean, you sort of at a steady pace, you can practice focused breathing or whatever. Just really take in all the sights, or just give yourself a moment to just relax and just coast and enjoy enjoy the ride. It is a bit meditative in that
Just
respect.
sort of being more present in this moment and
Absolutely.
less even thinking about getting to point B and more just experiencing what is happening right around you on this journey. Yeah. Yeah, so biking has given you, I mean, it seems like one, it's got to be more physically active than just riding the trains and walking to and from work.
Oh yeah.
You're biking a whole lot more, so that's got to be good.
True.
It's given you moments to be introspective, think about yourself, where you're at, what you're doing, and how to make it work. Gives you all that moment of like self sort of mulling over. I find that anytime I can be doing something along those lines, like when I used to go running a lot, it was like a great moment to really think about, or really just like let my thoughts process, less like direct thinking about it and more just like my thoughts are processing in this moment around me. I find that like good bouts of physical exercise can definitely help with that. And I bet biking, like especially when it's so consistent, doing it for work, there's lots of moments to turn that on and off when you're just like, all right, now I'm not thinking about that and I'm listening to a podcast and that episode is ended or they just said something specific and now I'm not even listening anymore. My brain is just going in its own direction.
Do you still run or occasionally?
I haven't since a couple years ago I broke my ankle. I have these plates going up protecting my the connection. And I've just been afraid. I can't really run outside anymore because the concrete is too hard and the impact, like I can feel the strain around the metal plate afterwards, which is really annoying. So like cardio has fallen off. I think biking would be good because it's not impactful.
Biking, swimming, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, swimming. I want to get like I think that if I could even go on like a treadmill, I think would be fine again. It's less impact. The concrete gives so much energy right back into your ankles. And even with good shoes, it's just consistent, just like pounding on my ankle, which is sucks because I used to enjoy cardio, but now I guess I'm just afraid of it getting hurt again because I just don't know. I don't know. Like my other ankle, I'm not afraid of. I could like run on it all day.
Right.
But I'm just worried that like if something goes wrong, it took me a year to heal. Like I don't want to take another year out of my life to like worry about healing my ankle. So unfortunately, I have not. I've gone running like twice since that happened, and it just is too much anxiety about. I mean, like the doctor said it's fine again to like do that, like life can return to normal, but for some reason I'm just worried about it falling apart. You know what I mean? Just like something happens with it and then my ankle's just like done, you know, and I like don't want to go through that process again. So I think getting onto a bike would be really, really solid. I think it would take place of that cardio that I'm missing.
Yeah.
And just be like overall good for the health and also just for mental health because you know, again, was a time in which I would like.
Do you own a bike or?
I do. I have to get it repaired. I think both. I own a bike because my old roommate, bought two bikes and bought the second bike because he didn't like the first bike, and now the second bike is still here. But I just have to get the tires repaired. It's easy. It's right there for me to do it. And that's literally all it would take. So maybe that is the next step I take because my new trip to work would be so easy if I was on a bike.
Sure.
Yeah. And getting home, I get off, you know, like you said, like getting off so late and not being able to take public transportation. There is not a path I can take home if I get out past like 12:30, and I get out generally about between 1 and 2, sometimes as late as 4:30, which is like no bus, not the bus I would need to take at 4:30. And so I basically have to take like an Uber to get home. Which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
That is where all of the transportation fees come in. So I think that getting on a bike would just save me, I mean, maybe $60 a week on getting to and from work. So that might be pretty beneficial. Actually, tallying all that up has made me anxious about it.
$60 a week, weeks in the.
Yeah, man, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money saved.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, I think that is a good place to begin doing some close-ups. I really appreciate you coming on out. Literally coming on out. This is the first time someone's actually come on out.
Hell yeah,
to join us in the studio.
I'm not kidding. I love podcasts. I've been listening to them for years, and it's like admittedly, when you're doing deliveries sun up to sundown, it's gonna get lonely, right?
Yeah.
And then to hear other, I guess to hear other people's voices or being somewhat engaged in the conversation that other people are having, it's really awesome too. It's like I really do love podcasts. So when I heard when you told me about yours, when you invited me to yours, I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know how it's gonna go. It might go horribly wrong and it might be a disaster, but I have to do it.
Yeah,
I have to do it.
I think that's kind of how I felt about starting it too.
Thank you for having me on. This was awesome.
100%. I'm really glad that you were able to come on out and be a part of it. It took us a little bit to get it up and running, mostly just because a loss of communication line, which is totally fine. I'm really glad that we were able to, and then it was much easier than I thought. Like, I don't know. I always thought that in person would be just harder, and I don't think it is any different. And I think that's great.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've heard people talk about how different it is to actually do a podcast in person versus just doing it via audio or via, let's say, Zoom. Or
Yeah,
whatever,
Zoom
right?
is how we mostly do it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, there's definitely a different energy. Like at
Yes.
first there was a little bit of nerves, but then like I think once we started talking, it was just like
Oh, yeah.
you're able to actually like bounce off of the energy of the person, and
Yeah.
like on the screen there's just a disconnect. Like
Yeah.
not an intense one, not so
No,
bad that it
but it's
changes
there.
an episode,
It's
but
there.
now that I've done this in person, I can definitely feel the difference in energy that it is just here. Like,
Definitely.
yeah.
I love it.
For sure,
That's
for
great.
sure. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on out and making the time. Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm gonna do some close up stuff here. But yeah. We'll definitely chat soon about this, see how it went.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
All right, everybody, and now we're back here. I want to thank you all for coming on out and listening to this episode of the PureJoy podcast with my guest, Reyes. We talked a lot today about biking, cycling, mostly in-city cycling, right? The dangers and the warnings associated with that, but also the joys that it brings. As sort of Ray described, it seems to be good for the mind, body, and soul. That interview was done in person, so I didn't get quite to do this wrap up at the same time. This is coming at a different day, and I've had time to like mull that over. And even last night when I got off of work, instead of taking the bus, it was a little far out. I thought, well, let's take a bike. Why not take a bike? So I did like one of the Lyft bikes, right? And then I just rode it home, and it was a great time, a little freeing. It like was a little private moment. Took me like maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20, a little bit longer, a tiny bit more expensive than the bus, like when I'm renting a bike, but like it was freeing. I didn't have to worry. I like felt more in control of my own thing. It was as fast as I could go would get me home. It wasn't like how many stops this bus had to take. So it put me a little bit more in control, and it let me enjoy the night air. It was like a beautiful, cool evening. And so yeah, I think that cycling is a joyous thing. I mean, me even just doing it last night, like Ray said, if you want to get started on your way to or from work, that's exactly what I did, and it felt really good. I didn't like wear myself out. I didn't wake up super exhausted. Maybe doing it once or twice more in a week, slowly build myself up to being able to maybe do it daily, maybe get the bike fixed up. Like, yeah, I would say that I personally found a little bit of joy in this episode because it pushed me to do something that I don't normally do. So hopefully you have also found a little bit of joy in this episode. Again, I appreciate Ray for making the time to actually come on out to my house to record this episode of the PureJoy podcast with me. Really appreciate it. It was a good fun time. I really enjoyed the live energy. The bouncing back and forth was really, really strong. The flow was there. There was like less. I noticed in the edit that there was like so much less pauses. There was less ers. It was just like a natural conversation. So yeah, it was a good time, and I appreciate him coming on out. I want to appreciate MioWnize and Merda for allowing me to use their music in the intro, the outro, and the transitions of this podcast. You can find all their information down in the description of this episode. And as always, thank you folks for coming on out and joining us on this episode of the PureJoy podcast. That's going to do it for us this time, so we'll see you next time.